A frightening situation for multiple women in Windsor. They say they were followed by a car for many blocks in the dark of night. Plus, the second part in our series, The Faces of Public Health, looking at the personal toll on those working behind the scenes to keep us safe. Tonight, someone who did contact tracing tells us how she kept on top of the virus in our community while working under extreme pressure. 10 degrees outside right now and a clear day. The clouds being pushed aside for a bright sun to peek on through. Colette Kennedy with the full details in her forecast tonight. I'm Chris Ensing. Thanks for joining us. Women in Windsor are speaking out about being followed by a strange vehicle. It's happened multiple times over the last couple of days, and police saying today that they've made an arrest. The CBC's Katerina Georgieva has more.
It's like something out of a nightmare. You're in your car, you're driving home, when you spot a car in the rearview mirror and one of the headlights is out, and you've got this sinking feeling that you're being followed. Multiple Windsor women are coming forward with similar stories, and it happened to Melissa Seeger just last night.
I was just on my way home from downtown. It was about 10 o'clock, so it was pretty dark out. And then I was driving down Riverside Drive, and I noticed there was a guy behind me pretty much the whole length of Riverside from downtown to East Side.
He followed her all the way to her neighborhood.
I just kept driving, and I sped up a little bit, and I turned into a dark driveway, and I shut my lights off, and I noticed him kind of creeping by, looking for my car.
Eventually, he turned around, so she started following him. He intercepted her, trying to get her to talk to him.
I was just yelling from my window, like asking him why he was following me. And he said, can I buy you a coffee? And I was like, no, like, why are you following me? I'm trying to go home and I can't go home now.
Eventually, neighbors came out to help chase him away, and the man left, and Seeger called police and filed a report. That's when she says police told her they'd received multiple reports about this person. And then she saw this post, shared more than 1,000 times. Another woman shared a similar story about a car with the exact same license plate. More women came forward after that, like Janelle Cunning, who was followed in her neighborhood while walking her dogs by a similar car.
It scares the living daylights out of me. I just want to see females have their power back and feel safe.
Gabrielle Como was followed in the East End late Monday night.
Right now, I feel very motivated to do whatever I can to get this guy off the streets and to also educate other women that it's not, that we need to stick together and that we need to protect one another and talk about these things more.
Police say they've arrested and charged a 36-year-old man for following a woman in her car last night. He's facing a criminal harassment charge, and police say he may have harassed other women as well. Police say the man was found in the area of Riverside Drive and Olette, but the women CBC has talked to say they were also followed in the Walkerville area, Fontainebleau, and the East End near Wyandotte and Jefferson, and Riverside and Paulette. Those who have been followed say this is a reminder to be on alert.
We're joined now live by Katerina at Riverside and Olette. Kat, what more are police saying about this?
Well, Chris, police aren't confirming whether the person who they arrested is the same person involved in the Facebook post situation that we told you about or the cases that we just mentioned, but they do believe that it is likely that this was not just a one-time thing for this individual. All of the women who we spoke with, they all filed police reports. Two of them told us that when police responded to their situations, they were told that the man who was following them wasn't doing anything illegal and there wasn't much more that they could do. Now, I did take that to police. I asked them why that was, what may have changed that led to the arrest, but they wouldn't comment. As for what you should do if this is happening to you, police say that you should find a populated area like an open business, call 911 right away, and try to get as many physical descriptors as you possibly can, like a license plate. And lastly, if any of this is familiar to you, if this has happened to you, police are asking that you come forward. Chris.
Thanks, Katerina. The CBC's Katerina Georgieva live tonight. The Windsor and Essex County Health Unit says that the recent spike in coronavirus cases is not a trend. 17 new cases on Tuesday, 3 more announced today. But after connecting with the people who tested positive, the medical officer of health doesn't expect a continued surge from these specific cases.
The good and bad part of the 17 is there are majority of them are all close contacts. So 12 of them are close contacts, which means that it's not 12 separate individuals who have acquired the disease separately in the community, which would pose that there is an ongoing transmission that's happening.
Meanwhile, in Chatham, Kent, the health unit there is saying 4 new cases of COVID-19 announced this afternoon. There's also a new outbreak at an unnamed congregate living facility. There are now 17 people with COVID-19 cases that are connected to an outbreak at a church that's been closed in Blenheim. The Windsor-Essex Catholic District School Board has pushed back its school reorganization deadline to November 9th. It had been scheduled for November 2nd, but it decided it needed more time because so many parents have decided to send their children back to in-class learning. Let's take a quick look at what transition will mean. 800 students who had been learning online will now be returning to class. 100 who were in class will be going online. The board says the reorganization will be challenging. Some teachers will be switched in the process. Officials say they need more time to properly reorganize class and to make sure that that transition is smooth. Leamington greenhouses will be given more time to get light pollution under control. It comes after Kingsville Town Council passed a bylaw this week prohibiting it, which takes effect immediately. Last night, Leamington Council put off finalizing its own bylaw. Mayor Hilda McDonald says there should be public input first to avoid court challenges. Less than a week to the U.S. election. Even though it's just across the river, the border closure can make it seem pretty far away. For some truckers, crossing the border is part of their job. Doing it during such a heated election can be an anxiety-inducing experience. Jacob Barker with more.
Well, trucks have continued to flow across this bridge since the pandemic began, giving continuity to North America's busiest trade crossing. But for truckers that we spoke to who cross the divide daily, growing political tensions are cause for concern.
I have been telling my family and friends, anybody who would listen, like, this is kind of scary what's going on. And I am really fortunate that things just so happen in my life where I may not be over there next week around election time.
Fonelier is between jobs right now, but will return to trucking just a few days after Election Day. Though he runs the states all over the place, much of his time was spent in Michigan. A recent plot to kidnap the governor there was thwarted by the FBI. President Trump recently told his supporters to go to the polls and watch very closely, a call some believe will be heeded by armed far-right militias.
I'm seeing unrest in Michigan, Ohio, or Indiana, and I have to use one of those states or go to one of those states. I have the right to tell my dispatcher or my company, listen, this is taking place here and you can probably find someone else to do it, but I'm not going to be the one.
They're really fanatical about their politics over there.
Holly Noble is another trucker who crosses into Michigan twice a day, 4 times a week. She says Americans take their politics very seriously, so she stays in her truck, goes where she needs to go, and that's where she gets out. But interaction with people is inevitable, and she's scheduled to work on Election Day.
It wouldn't hurt to pack a little extra something just in case anything prevents me from being able to cross back into Canada.
She says if politics comes up, she stays out of it.
There's a lot of extreme views from one side to the other, so I mean, for the most part, honestly, when I hear about it, I kind of just keep my mouth shut, because I'm not gonna get in any sort of confrontation about the American politics.
Election or no election, the job they do to keep goods flowing is an essential one, but both Fonelier and Noble plan to keep on trucking. Jacob Barker, CBC News, Windsor.
They're just going. Every day is a new thing.
I always feel like I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow.
Our day-to-day here became much like a command center.
What's it like to manage a public health crisis? 3 people working flat out with the Windsor and Essex County Health Unit are sharing their story. Long days, hard sacrifices, and dealing with a constant unknown. They tell us what the last few months have been like. And tonight, we hear from one of the health unit's infectious disease managers. She dealt with the frustrations of people breaking public health guidance, separating from her own family to stay safe, and riding a wave of high pressure situations for months on end.
There were moments of extreme heightened pressure, and there were lulls, and it has been that way. In the very beginning, I would equate this to watching a roller coaster go up, where you're kind of like tick, 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 and we were watching and waiting for cases. They were trickling in. And then once they came, the roller coaster really began.
A vivid description of the first few weeks of the pandemic, but do you remember these charts from the summer? A pair of clusters showing how this virus spreads. At the heart of it are contact tracers, a team Sandra Vesco was part of, one of the people who tracked potential spread, and at times became a lifeline for those isolating.
We're discussing with them when they should be calling 911. At which point do they need to proceed to ER? Do they have what they need to stay home and continue to isolate? Do they have food? Do they have support? So the phone calls are not very quick at all. They can be anywhere from a half an hour to an hour to several hours, depending on the need that the individual has.
This is where those social bubbles come into play, eventually allowed a limit of 10 people. Remember when Dr. Wajid Ahmed would get frustrated about people with bigger bubbles?
The impression that we are getting is people are getting a little bit more relaxed in terms of number of contacts.
He was speaking for the contact tracers, trying to steady the roller coaster.
Yeah, that was a bit frustrating. So when we would, make our calls and the nurses would alert the managers to suspicions of people not isolating or people gathering, when they shouldn't be, or things of that nature, it was very frustrating, and having those conversations with the individuals to help them understand that, it's important to comply with isolation wasn't easy.
And all of this, well, the dozens and dozens of people tracing these contacts were making huge personal sacrifices themselves.
This hasn't been easy on any of us. In the very beginning, when the pandemic looked like it was starting to move from China to Europe, and we saw it coming our way, we didn't know the impact. We didn't know what this virus was capable of. Although it mimicked other viruses, it's not the same. And so not knowing how it spreads, how it could affect people, we all had our challenges, and we were the first here to test in our area. So we had people who were coming in who had traveled and they had symptoms, and we had to send nurses out, including myself, to test people in their homes. So, teaching nurses how to make sure they put on their PPE properly, because it had been years since they had done that in a hospital. That was one of the challenges. But also, those nurses, including myself, we felt that we needed to isolate from our families. Because what if, the mode of transmission wasn't as we had suspected, and there was a possibility that we were incubating, like harboring this virus. So there was a moment in time where I was separated from my children, my small children, for 2 months. They, stayed with their dad, and I had to be apart. And I didn't hesitate, because I knew that, they'll understand one day that we're a part of something, and my community needs me. And, so I was committed to this, and so were many of the other nurses here. So I just want to say that we've all made sacrifices, and I hope that the community can continue to see that what we're doing is for them, and that the things that they're doing, online schooling, or if that's what they're choosing, or staying separated and not gathering for holidays, I hope that they realize that the reason for this is for the greater good.
You can read more about what this period was like for her on our website, cbc.ca/Windsor. Tomorrow, we're going to bring you the final part of our 3-part series. We speak with one of the people who helped manage outbreak protocols at schools in Windsor, Essex. We're going to hear about how she feels the first cases at schools were handled, and what her family missed out on this summer as she worked to keep the community safe. The economic fallout from COVID-19 has been devastating for many Canadians, but women have been hit particularly hard. More than 1 million lost work in the early months. Here in Windsor, where experts say women already have the odds stacked against them, recovery, it might be even harder. Derica Talbot had to put her life and career on hold when this pandemic hit.
My life was just put on pause, almost like I stepped into the twilight zone. It was very different. It was very different. I would say the first 4 months was the worst because that was the scariest time, I think, for being in fear for your family and bringing it home and stuff like that. It's a sticky situation for women out there. I feel like you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. And it's difficult to make any decision right now at all. No one knows what's going on. No one knows what's happening. You're trying to do what's best for your children, yet keep a roof over your head.
Windsor, of course, has had more challenges in some respects economically. It's had typically lower average earnings among women. Levels of employment have tended to be lower in Windsor than other communities. Rates of poverty are somewhat higher than national average in Windsor and have been for several years. It's shaping up to be a hugely, huge economic challenge for women. It'll be really hard in a community like Windsor where, women already had relatively lower incomes to start with.
You can read more from Jennifer LaGrasse's story online, including some ideas on how things can get better. Just go to our website, cbc.ca/Windsor. Another look outside here as we enjoy the sun midweek after a couple days where things looked a little dreary. Colette Kennedy is going to join us next to tell us what the rest of the week will look like. Joining us now with a live look of the weather is Colette Kennedy. You promised us sun and you delivered. It was absolutely beautiful this afternoon.
So nice to have a day like this, right? Especially when we're midweek, kind of helps to restore the batteries, recharge things, right? A little bit, to get us through the rest of the week. So things kind of back to seasonal or very close to, with those highs today and into the double digits with sunshine through the day too. Really, really nice conditions. I want to take your attention somewhere else where the conditions are not so nice, and this is what's going on at the moment. Well, becoming a tropical storm again, but actually up to hurricane strength, as we've got Hurricane Zeta making landfall with those wind speeds up to 175 kilometers an hour. So actually at this point, a hurricane, it's a category 2 in terms of the strength along the coast of Louisiana. So the 5th storm for this season for that state, and the 11th for the U.S. mainland named storm here. And the reason I point this out again, I've been doing this week because talking about some of this moisture plus a winter storm here, and the track is kind of taking this just skimming to the south of us. So it's very good for us that it is staying just to the south, because with those two components coming together, all that moisture, all that cold air, this is likely going to become quite the winter storm for the U.S. Northeast. For us, likely just some cloud cover and stray showers coming our way. So the sunshine is going to be going away, but not forever. We will be seeing some increase in cloudiness coming our way. The temperature right now, though, still holding in the double digits, 10 degrees, 9 degrees there. You folks, Chatham, Kent, you see the cloud cover building in our model showing that we start off for Thursday with the clouds. I do think some of these stray showers will be coming our way too. Not necessarily tonight. The chances there, but I put it at only about 30%, mostly for my forecast. I'm just putting the cloud cover in. However, for tomorrow, I do think we'll see some of those showers, even though the model not necessarily picking it up. I do think some of these showers coming our way for Thursday. Then we get into clearing, which is nice that we'll have that as we go towards Friday. It does mean for the daytime on Friday, we have the sun coming back, but it also means we're going to see a couple of very cool nights and some very chilly mornings as well. Any moisture in the area then is going to be likely turning into some flurries. Probably not so much for us, but a little further towards the north and east, that's going to be the case. Your temperatures tonight, though, not to worry. They'll be staying above freezing, certainly. And tomorrow we'll probably just make it to the double digits, high of about 10 degrees. Again, likely into the afternoon, a few stray showers coming our way, and then we'll get into things. Whoops, I didn't mean to go back past that so quickly. Sorry about that. We have drier, cooler conditions into the weekend, though.
No, absolutely. Enjoying the sun while it's around here. Thanks for this, Colette.
You're welcome.
Up next, unrest in Philadelphia. Our LM Morrow breaks it all down. Not much was said by the Trump administration when it happened last spring. That's when 170,000 detainees at U.S. jails and state prisons were released to ease the risk of the spread of the pandemic in crowded facilities. Many were in jail because they couldn't post bail for temporary release while awaiting trial.
People need to have money to get out, and that means that we have jails full of poor people.
The U.S. has the world's highest population of incarcerated people at 2.1 million. Now, nearly 500,000 have yet to be tried and are legally presumed innocent. The pandemic prompted a rethink about locking up those who just can't afford bail while they wait, some of whom die inside because of inadequate health care. Critics warned a surge in crime would follow their release, but since spring, many facilities are keeping the strategy in place. Residents of Philadelphia are bracing for more unrest following the police killing of a black man. The city has already seen 2 nights of protests that included clashes with police. Ellen Morrow has more on the situation and a warning. This report includes video taken around the time of the fatal shooting. Viewers may find disturbing.
For the second straight night, anger erupting on the streets of Philadelphia. More than 1,000 protesters taking over city blocks, demanding justice for Walter Wallace Jr., the 27-year-old father shot dead by police earlier this week. Devastating for his family who saw it happen.
I need help. If you see your son got murdered, butchered, I would ask you how would you feel. So you know what I mean? It's a grief. That's something I wouldn't want no parent in life had to experience what I went through.
Wallace says his family had a history of mental illness. They say they called for an ambulance. Instead, police arrived. Wallace's killing captured in this haunting video. 2 officers firing 7 shots each as Wallace held a knife.
Yes, I was telling the police to stop. Don't shoot my son.
Blaming the city's police department instead of the individual officers, the Wallace family lawyer said they should have been equipped with tasers and better de-escalation training.
It's emotionally taxing to think about how you could call for assistance and wind up with the people who you called killing you. I can't even conceive the concept. I just can't.
Wallace's community now demanding justice.
You don't bring a gun to a knife fight or a knife to a gunfight, and that's exactly what they did.
I really want to have a kid, but one thing I refuse to do, I refuse to have a child while stuff like this is going on. I don't want to be raising my child for 27 years just for him to get killed by somebody.
While the protests have been mainly peaceful, there has been some looting and vandalism. Some 30 police officers have been injured, 1 officer run over by a truck. Wallace's father is calling for calm.
And I hope people show my family and the city some kind of respect, because I like me, I ain't got time to loot and burn up and destroy where I live. It's uncalled for.
Philadelphia's protests are set to continue. Pain here raw over the killings of black people by police in the U.S. Wallace Jr., the latest name on a long list. Ellen Morrow, CBC News, Washington.
It's 6:29 p.m. and that's it for CBC Windsor News. You can find more stories online at cbc.ca/Windsor. Power Politics is up next. Thanks for watching. Make sure you and your family have a wonderful night.